Good evening all, this is the January 22nd City Council meeting of the City of Crescent Springs. We'll begin with the pledge and a prayer. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Lord, we thank you for bringing us here today. Please put the well-being of our residents and those who visit our city in the front of mind of what we do. Make us make good decisions and what's good for our residents and those that visit. Amen. Roll call, please.
Don Kiley.
Here.
Janine Bell-Smith.
Present.
Bill Schultz.
Here.
Carol McGowan.
Here.
Brian Barclay.
Here.
Mark Wittenberger.
Present.
Thank you very much. Next item is approval of minutes, the November 27th, 2023 council meeting.
Motion to approve.
Is there a second? Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Don Kiley.
Yes.
Janine Bell-Smith.
Yes.
Bill Schultz.
Yes.
Carol McGowan.
Yes.
Brian Barclay.
Yes.
Mark Wittenberger.
Yes.
Next is the December 20th, 2023 special meeting. And is that the one that we had to change on, April?
Yes, it was. Page 1.
I should have brought my glasses, I left them in the car, I apologize. There was a, thank you. Councilperson Smith had one change of a word, I believe it was in line 2, changing the word to the word concerning instead of
Disturbing.
disturbing. So that's on the copy that you all have in front of you. Other than that, there's been no changes requested. With that, I'll take a motion to approve.
Make a motion to approve.
Or second?
Second.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Don Kiley.
Yes.
Janine Bell-Smith.
Yes.
Bill Schultz.
Yes.
Carol McGowan.
Yes.
Brian Barclay.
Yes.
Mark Wittenberger.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Next item is John Chamberlain from Chamberlain Owen and Company with the presentation of our annual audits.
Thank you, Mayor. I appreciate it. My name is John Chamberlain. I'm a CPA partner at Chamberlain Owen and Company, and we're a CPA firm in Erlanger, Kentucky that specializes in governmental auditing and accounting, and appreciate the opportunity to do the work for the city of Crescent Springs again this year. This audit's been done for a while. We were finished back in November. I think we met with the Finance Committee in November, and then we didn't have a council meeting in December, so it feels like it's been done forever for me. I want to thank Mike and April and Ben Harrison, who's your consultant accountant, for taking good care of us while we're here, getting us everything that we need. They do a really good job for you as a city. You've got people in place to do the things you need them to do, so we appreciate all their assistance. You should have in front of you a set of slides. I'm just going to go through the slides. I do want to let you know that I went through the financial statements themselves in detail with the Finance Committee. They asked a lot of questions, and we really hashed a lot of things out in the Finance Committee. So we're going to give you just really, council, just an overview of the financials this evening. The second slide shows the auditor's opinion, and that's that our financial statements are fairly presented. This is what's called an unmodified opinion, meaning we didn't have to make any modifications and that to the opinion, and that it is your opinion is fairly stated. Or the financial statements are fairly stated, and this is the highest opinion that we give. As a part of every governmental audit, we do a review of internal controls to ensure that your riskiest assets are protected, and so that includes your cash controls, asset controls, revenue and expenditures, as well as your reporting controls, your financial statement reporting. And we had no material weaknesses or significant deficiencies to report in internal controls, so that's a very good thing. And then as part of every governmental audit, we also review compliance, compliance with Kentucky revised statutes, compliance with any bond, debt, grant agreements, anything like that, and SERS compliance, SERS census testing, and no issues of noncompliance to report as well. So we did provide the Finance Committee a governance letter, and in that we did point out a few things. One, there was no management letter issued this year, meaning we had no management comments. So that's a good thing. That means you really couldn't find things that we wanted to pick on you about this year. We make 2 regularly scheduled adjustments to your government-wide financial statements, and that's a change to the unfunded pension and OPEB liability balances. And so that's a planned adjustment that we make each year for every city that we audit. And then we also made no adjustments to the financial statements, so no audit adjustments at all to your fund financial statements. So April and Ben, your accounting that you have, Ben comes in at the end of the year. They make all the required adjustments so that when we come in, we're just auditing, we're not making changes and putting your books in order. So that's a real shout out to them and for a good job they do. The next slide is a cash and assets comparison. Total assets decreased about $634,000 from 2022, while cash and cash equivalents decreased about $345,000. And that's really, and this will be the theme of my presentation, will be the grant to the firehouse, the $1 million grant that the city paid out in 2022-23, and that affects. You'll see that roll through the financial statements in several areas. But that $1 million, that was the biggest chunk of that decrease. The Government Finance Officers Association, the GFOA, does recommends a 3 to 6 month cash operating cash on hand. So operating expenses, 3 to 6 months of your operating expenses. They recommend to have that much cash on hand. 3 months for the city of Crescent Springs to be about $941,000. That's where the red arrow is up on the slides there. And you've got almost $3.2 million. That's about 11 months of cash on hand. So you're in an outstanding financial position as far as cash goes. Liability comparisons, total liabilities decreased about $1.77 million decreased from $1.77 million to $983,000 in the current fiscal year. The red is just the compensated absences liability. That's the amount that you owe your staff at June 30th for vacation, that kind of thing. That's about $28,000. Yellow is your current liabilities. Those are your current payables at June 30th. And then also includes your deferred revenue. In 2022, remember you had American Recovery Plan Act, ARPA funds that you received in the amount of about $700,000. And so that was all deferred there in 2022. You recognized about $727,000 of that in the current year. And so you see that drop down significantly, that yellow amount. The orange amount that you see there, that's the pension and OPEB liability. And that decreased from $944,000 to $844,000 this year. That is based on the market values, the actuarial studies and things like that happened in June of 2022. So it's measured a year behind. And if you remember June of 2022, the markets were doing pretty well. And so that enabled that to drop, that unfunded pension liability to go down pretty significantly. I would think that it might go up this year. I'm not certain. We'll see about that. Total revenues for the city of about $4.2 million. That's up about $1.1 million. Again, the American Recovery Plan, the ARPA funds of about $714,000 that we actually recognized in the current year. I said that mistakenly earlier. $714 recognized in 2023. And so that's a significant part of that jump. Expenditures of $3.77 million, that's up about $750,000. With those ARPA revenues came some additional expenditures and also the firehouse grant of $1 million. The next slide is just revenues by source for June 30th, 2023. See there, total revenues again about 4.2 million, 35% increase. Payroll license tax up about 23.5%, up about 363,000. That's a good increase. That means very dynamic growth in the city. Property taxes up about 227,000, about 20%. That's natural growth. There wasn't a tax increase, so that's growth just through assessment value. So that's good for the city as well. And then intergovernmental revenue of about 466,000, again, recognized 714,000 of the ARPA funds this year. And then the final one I want to point out is your interest income. Anybody that has money in the bank should be well familiar with the increase in the interest rates from point something to four something. And so now you had about $80,000 in interest income compared to about $3,000 last year. So about a $77,000 increase in interest income. Expenditures by department, total expenditures of $3.7 million. Public Works about $735,000, down 21% from last year. Police $734,000, down 2%. General Government $533,000, down about 5%, and then the Fire Authority up almost 200%. Again, that's the $1 million grant there to the Fire Authority. Capital outlay up about $26,000. That included a $65,000 rebuild of a retaining wall at Eubanks Road. That was partial, but it was funded by an emergency municipal road aid fund grant. So that's something that was funded by the municipal road aid. And then $34,000 for park improvements and $19,000 for Cherry Street storm sewer. So these next few slides are just expenditures, yearly comparison of expenditures. Again, this is your safety. This is because of the fire. General governmental expenditures, see very standard, very level over the past 6 years. Public Works expenditures, they jump. Public Works is the one expenditure is hard to measure on the slide because it jumps around based on street work that you do. A lot of it's not capitalized, and so if you do a big street project, it might jump around a little bit. And then capital outlay expenditures. Again, a good audit report. Nothing, no management comments to issue. Any questions or anything that I can answer? A little over my 2.5 minutes, maybe, but I can.
If there's no questions, John, thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you guys very much.
Thanks, John.
Appreciate you coming. I really have nothing in the mayor's report that isn't going to be covered in the city administrator's report, so we'll just leave that for time's sake. Chief Wynn.
Good evening. Well, I hated to take up all your financial reports, but mostly fire department. I did email April the year-end report kind of late today, so you don't have it yet. But I'll touch on the numbers. 40 fire responses for December, 568 year-to-date. That's down 20 from last year. Ambulance responses, 171,251 ambulance responses. That's up 80 from last year. So total dispatches for the year, 1,546. That's an increase of 20. I know those two numbers do not add up, but you have to realize that sometimes the ambulance goes with the fire truck, and vice versa. Total fire losses for the year, $819,750. The good news for Crescent Springs is all but $250 was in Bill Hills. That is an increase of $265,600 from last year. And quite frankly, that's only 3 fires, 2 of them which were total losses. Just the building cost alone to rebuild houses now is through the roof. So I have not seen the national numbers yet, but we usually come in right at the national average, and I expect that we will again.
The Civic Club was this year or
No, that was last year.
Oh, so it went up that much over the Civic Club year?
Yep. And, that's pretty much all I have under the year-end report, unless there's any questions. It's a pretty lengthy report, and if you have questions when you go through it, don't hesitate to ask me. The new firehouse, we are seeking a temporary occupancy on Thursday. If we get that, we'll begin moving on Friday and over the weekend. We anticipate taking 2 weeks to move into the new building, and then they'll start demolishing the old building. Both cities' public works have gone through the old building to see if there's anything that either city can use, and I don't think we came up with very much. So, other than that, we're finally on progress to get into the new building.
How's it feel?
We're getting excited now. It's it's a really beautiful building, and I look forward to showing everybody how it looks in the end.
I toured it on Monday. It's nice
Yeah.
if you haven't been over there.
I will tell you that Florence visited our firehouse. They're building a new fire station on Dream Street. Their building is 2,500 square feet less than ours, and it is a little over $3 million more is the cost. So they're at $11.5 million. So even though it was a bad time with COVID, we still came out on top.
Thank you.
Any questions for Jeff or Fire Authority? During that, I know we have business later on in the meeting that he's gonna stick around for, but as far as reports, anybody have anything? Thanks, Chief.
Thanks.
Chief Hall.
Good evening, everybody. December, we had 1,166 calls for service. The next page of the report includes, I break down the cities, all calls, obviously. This includes self-initiated traffic stops and special area checks. 54% of the calls were in Dela Hills and 46% of the calls were in Crescent Springs. When you extrapolate the self-initiated calls, and like I said, it's traffic stops, special area checks, requests for informations, anything that the officer will self-initiate himself and not is actually dispatched, the numbers flip. Villa Hills had 48% of the calls and Crescent Springs had 52% of the actual dispatch calls. We had 14 crimes, documented 16 traffic collisions, 35 citations, 17 e-courtesy notices, 3 e-calls, 7 JC3 or domestic reports, and 2 crisis intervention forms filled out. I'll skip through the citations. It's kind of similar to every month that we have in the locations of our citations that we issue. Buttermilk took 50% of our traffic collisions, 8 of the 16. We did have, luckily we did not have any injury collisions for the month of December. We had 2 of our traffic collisions involving commercial motor vehicles. Criminal investigations report, Detective Lucas, as quick as he inactivates and closes cases, he's taking on more cases. So they kind of stay, and he stays very busy, to be quite honest with you. Opening up several new cases between endangering welfare of minor, a couple more thefts and 1 endangerment charges, but was able to close out a few, oh gosh, I touched something there. Sorry about that.
You just close the lid.
Just close it.
Mike, will you turn that off?
I'm sorry about that. I'm just gonna shut this
System.
down. Apologize. He did have 1 fire call out to assist the county down in the southern part of Kenton County. It was an undetermined cause, and they were able to close out that case for the arson investigation team. Departmental training, we covered chapter 17.7 in our policy procedural manual, which is just dealing with persons with mental illness, diminished capacity, and excited delirium. 2 hours for canine training and 10 hours for Sergeant Black to attend SWAT negotiations training that he attends every month. Officer Dooley and Canine Onyx had 9 deployments for the month of December. 7 of those were within the cities and with the Northern Detective Air Strike Force. He had 2 assists. 8 of those deployments were for narcotic searches. 1 of those was in a felony stop. He's credited with 5 arrests and 9 charges total. He did document 2 hours of training. I know that's less than what he normally does. He's well over the required amount for required through the federal standard. However, the reason that his hours for training were lower this month, or last month, I should say, was because his day of training was actually the Shop with Cop Fireman Day. So he obviously participated in Shop with Cop Fireman, being well over his hours, so. We had 54 hours of overtime in the month. 2 of those were for highway safety. The vast majority of it was for Shop with Cop and Fireman, and for investigations and late calls. We did have 4.5 hours of shift coverage as well for the month. Just some department news. I know you guys can see this in the report. Unit 150, which is one of the newest Durangos, is actually done. It's outfitted and it's actually on the road. So we have 2 of the 4 Durangos that are out on the roadway. They look sharp, and apparently they perform quite well in snow, as they've been tested. Unit 151 and 152 are still being outfitted. 151 is actually out of Fleet 911s. It's striped up, or just having equipment installed. So we hope to have both of those new cruisers out by mid-February on the road. Shop with Cop and Fireman was a great success, and thank you again. I know if I mentioned this last time, but it was a great success. Thank you for everybody's help and support, and donations, and volunteering. So can't do it without all of that. Annual report I'll present next month at both councils for Villa Hills and Crescent Springs. The vast majority of work that I'm doing right now is our policy review and working towards reaccreditation for June. It's just a tedious process where I have to review absolutely every one of our policies and import it into a new online portal system that they have and associate the standards and everything like that. So it's just kind of taking some time to do so. In the month of December, we assisted Park Hills Police and other agencies with the call at SD1 plant down in Bromley, and we also assisted Fort Mitchell Police with the shooting at Kroger that they had prior to Christmas. The only other point of thing that I'm currently looking at is our tasers are outdated, to be quite honest with you. None of our tasers are covered under warranty. We had one go down, we sent it back to Taser, which is also Axon. We had some lengthy discussion in our safety committee about moving forward with getting basically quotes and pricing plans and everything like that to be able to outfit all the officers with new tasers. The taser I currently have for myself is from 2006. So basically, as the tasers go out right now, they're not able to be repaired. So I'm moving forward with just getting some numbers. I don't have any of those figures for you right now, but just kind of give you a preference on how much a single taser with the cartridges provided is about $5,500 for one cartridge. So I'm looking at trying to bundle all of our plans together with Axon, because we currently have the Axon fleet cameras, which are in the car. We have the Axon body cameras, and all of our Evans storage for the body cam and the fleet is on Evans.com, which is cloud-based and owned by Axon. So I'm trying to have them all come together to be the best possible price for us to be able to move forward, to lump that all into a payment and be able to present that to you. But I don't have those hard numbers, so I don't want to jump at you guys and tell you, hey, this is what we're looking at, until I can have some actual physical numbers for you. So.
Do you know how often the tasers are used?
I think we used them twice last year, to be quite honest with you. But we also had 4, basically what we call show forces with the tasers. So yeah, I could say 6 of those, 6 times. So 6 total times that we actually pulled out. Now that's not saying when we actually have a show force, when we actually have, I'm using all of my motions here, but actually there's a laser dot on it and a light where we actually would present it at somebody that we would actually have a show force. Now a show force would not mean us taking it out and putting it to the side, as being able to have a tool. So that's not a show force. I can't tell you how many times we've done that, because it's just not a documented thing that we have, but 6 times that we actually 2 deployments and 4 actually with show force that we have.
When you do your total numbers, will you be able to have a total dollar amount for the federal reimbursement?
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's not a problem. No, yeah, rough estimate on that, I think we were around 150 hours, something like that when I was looking at that. Huh?
Can you do it in dollars?
I cannot, I can give you an average. I mean, I would have to go through actually everybody's timesheet and break it down and everything like that. I can get you a number, to be quite honest with you. Yep, no problem.
Thank you.
Is the case that you brought up a few months ago, I think at the DEA or some federal agency, is that case still open?
That case is still open. We have resolved, we have removed ourselves from any involvement with that, so it's been completely turned over to the DEA.
Other questions? Thanks, Chief. Mr. Daly.
Thank you, Mayor Darty. The first 2 items that you'll see on my report are items that Director Miller and I have been working together on. The first one is Grandview Drive and Buttermilk Crossing Street resurfacing. Member Barclay contacted me last week and came up with a good idea. He asked for me to research breaking down the cost for Grandview Drive by itself and Buttermilk Crossing by itself. And what we came up with based on percentages, as you'll see in my report, there's two costs listed. For Grandview Drive, it's just under $67K, and for Buttermilk Crossing, it's just under $55K. And both streets are approximately in the same condition road-wise, and Greg does not believe either of the streets have been repaved since the construction of them. And below that, I listed when both streets were developed. Grandview was in 1993, and Buttermilk Crossing was in 1994. And obviously Greg feels that 30 years is an extremely long time for the initial paving without an overlay, which gives greater urgency to repave it eventually in the future. Fun fact, for the best price, it's always better to package as many streets together. So sometimes that's why you'll see us doing that. And there is an asphalt price index included in the bid, which protects both the contractor and the city with the fluctuation of the cost of liquid asphalt, but inflation will affect the cost of all materials and labor, obviously. And it also appears that Fort Mitchell paved their section of Grandview within the last 10 years. Second item is Squire Hill Drive Road project. Staff is researching the emergency MRA funding for this road project. We do not have any information back yet, obviously, whether we've received that or not. We have received 3 quotes at this time, and we're still waiting on 3 quotes. And I listed the quotes there in my report, and it ranges from 15K right up to about 29K. And like I said, we're still waiting on the 3 quotes. And attached is a PDF of Squire Hill Drive concrete replacement plan and pics that you will see of the road condition currently that were completed by Greg Sketch, the engineer, and forwarded to Director Miller and myself.
So, can I ask a question or should we wait?
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
So I'm not a construction person. I'm reading this and I see that we're extending drainage, replacing concrete. Do we have a root cause as to what caused the failure?
Director Miller?
That's just, it's that surface failure. We're not sure. They just the heavy trucks that are going back there for that construction site and the water that's seeping under it.
So that's the need for the drainage to
Yeah.
divert water?
Yeah, it's right on the slope, so they're trying to divert water over to the side to the catch basin.
Okay, thank you.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but Brian, I think, brought this idea up, obviously in case, we were looking at maybe one theory would be to do one street. Or the other theory is to do both streets, or, like I said, we're researching the emergency MRA funding. And if that were to come to fruition, that would be a positive for the city, obviously, if we were able to obtain that funding itself. And the last item I have is the 2024 meeting conflicts. Staff was looking over 2024 for council and caucus, and we did notice 2 conflicts. We did want to make council mayor aware. On Monday, May 27th, council meeting, it's Memorial Day. And on Monday, November 11th, caucus meeting, it's Veterans Day. We do have a caucus meeting scheduled for Monday, May 13th, and a council meeting scheduled for Monday, November 25th. But we wanted to make everyone aware of that. And lastly, I have a small handout that has 2 dates listed, February 21st of this year, February 28th of this year. And the reason I'm giving that to you guys is because it's for you, mayor and council. It's an opportunity for city officials to network, meet with legislators, and attend committee meetings down in Frankfurt. The one is by the Northern Kentucky Chamber, and obviously we are members, so there is information there, and if you get on their website, it can guide you on how to go about attending that. And then for KLC, there's also information listed as well. Same thing, different information, but if you are interested, I thought I'd give it out to you guys so you can take a look, and it might be worthwhile if you went down there.
Can I rotate back to the Squire Hill?
Yes.
Do we know why, or what's not included in the 15,000 versus the 27,000, 28,000? I mean, it's 45% of the cost, or
It's-
55%.
It's just an estimate at this time.
So it's not a binding bid if we were to say that? I mean,
I'm not saying it couldn't change, is what I'm saying, it's an estimate. As far as the specifics of what specifically is in that estimate, no, I cannot give that to you.
okay, because the other two, I mean, are within $1,000 of each other, so I was just curious.
Director Miller, did I say anything? Well, there is some stuff in your quotes.
So they
That's
all
what
got
it
the
says.
same specs, and they all got the same exact layout of what we want done. So
Thank you, Brian.
I haven't really compared them, I just got them today, and sent them over. I would have to look at them to see, but there shouldn't be any changes or anything different between both of them. Or all three of them, they should all be the same work, I guess is what I'm saying.
Right,
Yeah,
I
but
mean,
it seems where they're twice, one is twice, two are twice as much than one. That's-
Right.
Two are larger companies and one is a smaller company, I'm not sure if that has something to do with it. We're waiting on the other three, which are a mix of smaller companies and larger companies as well.
so I just looked at these, I mean, very quickly, they're the same.
That's the quotes from the
Yeah,
three
so
numbers
say
I have.
110 yards of
exactly the
8-inch
same.
concrete, 4,000 PSI. You know, I mean, the quantities, the unit prices are just what's,
Right.
so. Okay. I was just curious, it was just, it stands out, right? That it's that much cheaper, or those two are that much more expensive. So I guess the other three will tell the story, right? So. Thank you. Mike, do you want these back?
You can look at it. Anybody else can look at it if you want?
I mean, I looked at it for 3 seconds, so I mean, can't say I know every word that's on them.
And just to follow up on the conflicts, Councilman Schultz, you'll be the mayor of the day for the July meeting, as I will not be here.
Gives you 6 months to find an excuse. No.
I have plans.
The December meeting would be on the 23rd if we had one at this point.
So what do we, or when, or what do we do about moving some of these meetings?
Yeah, why can't we just push them back a day, like the two Mondays to Tuesday?
They become special meetings at that point, when they're limited to the agenda that's published. We can certainly do that. I think, Mike's just making everybody aware that these exist as, possible conflicts, and if we have business we need to take care of, then we can certainly, change it to special meetings for what's needed. This is more just of an FYI.
It also plants the seed that if a meeting moves on those dates, that it's not just shifting to be shifty.
Yeah, like why wouldn't we want at least a council meeting rescheduled?
Right.
Yeah.
For a budget.
Right, it's budget time, so I mean, it more than likely will be, but we'll have to do it as a special meeting.
Yeah, I'm just saying, why can't we just do it now?
Yeah, why can't we do, why can't we choose a date now?
Yeah.
It's up to him to declare the meeting. It's a little early. So
Well, it's just about,
Yeah, well, my other question was gonna be, the meeting that we traditionally have, the special meeting in, I guess, late July, where we set the tax rate. I think I had asked in August, like, can we set that months and months and months in advance?
We don't get that information till usually July, if I'm correct, from the
End of August.
end of,
the date you're talking about was in August, and they're trying to say is you're not gonna do the number to officially set it, but I think you kinda can.
Well, yeah, I'm not saying there's a number now, I'm just saying, we know that we're gonna have that meeting the third week of August.
Just a lot of communication runway on that particular
Right.
meeting, that public hearing, that
Yeah, like
commentary.
no special meetings, like.
So I think that was what Bill's asking for.
Yeah.
Get that messaging out early and often. I don't know what we can actually take action on, but, you know, I'm with you.
Staff can get that message out.
Yep.
It's not a problem.
Can suggest that if we have a special meeting in May, that as people become aware of conflicts, they'll let you know when you're brought up, so you can pick the right date. So in a sense of picking a date, right?
Right, we'll have to communicate that.
Yeah, once we set a date, like, we can't unset, right? We can't shift it again, right?
We can probably do it until we give the notice, but once we give the notice, we're stuck.
Once it's in the paper.
Yes.
Okay.
We can certainly poll people to see what would be a better date.
Well, I'm just saying, if we all kind of sit around this room that we were gonna do May 28th, right, or whatever, it's not official, it's just, it's
Correct.
not official until it's official,
That is
until it's in print.
Until he actually calls it.
Yep, I just wanna make sure that,
Anything else for Mr. Daly? Director Miller?
Thank you. My few things I have on my list goes back to Mr. Daly and what he said, Squire Hill, the slab, the drainage, the emergency MRA that we're gonna be applying for to see if we get. We had 6 companies that we reached out to, Eaton Asphalt, Regular, Straight Edge, Humphrey Concrete, M&W, and TMS. We got 3 of the quotes, we're waiting on 3 more. We've had a few light poles down or damaged. They have all been reported to Duke. Duke will be taking care of those and replacing them. There's some lights that are damaged just due to wear and tear and age back in Rosewood. I am waiting on a quote from Duke to replace those lights to the updated LED. There was a few things on Buttermilk this weekend. The street light was crooked. We reported that back to the state. State came out and fixed that, so that was taken care of. Snow and ice the last couple of days have been great with the state. They've kept up on Buttermilk, Anderson, Bromley Crescent Springs Road. We haven't had to worry about those roads. And then my team did an amazing job making sure the city streets were clean as well. And we're working on potholes to get that taken care of. And we're gonna make sure we don't have any drainage issues with all this rain coming with all the catch basins and cleaning out all the gutters. So does anybody have any questions for me?
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Anybody have any old business to discuss?
we'll talk about I'd have more discussion at the road during the vote, right, with questions about numbers and bringing that back to the top. 80,000 in money that we have from MRA and all of that stuff when we read the municipal order and discuss, okay.
Okay.
Then I'm good.
Mr. Baker, we'll start with municipal orders and such. Municipal order 2024-1.
Happy New Year, we're back to one. Municipal Order 2024-1, designation of council committees of the City of Crescent Springs, Kentucky. Be it ordered by the Mayor of the Legislative Body of the City of Crescent Springs, Kentucky as follows. Section 1, the Council of the City of Crescent Springs, Kentucky does hereby establish the following council committees to advise the full council on the operation of its legislative duties as provided by statute. Further, the members of council and citizen representatives are appointed to the respective committees as follows. Committees, the Finance Committee, the members are Mark Wertenberger, Chair, Bill Schultz, April Robinson, Mike Daly. Communications, Transparency Committee, Janine Bell Smith, Chair, Brian Barclay, and Mike Daly. Public Works Committee, Don Kiley, Chair, Tony Hester, Janine Bell Smith, and Tommy Miller. Villa Hills Safety Committee, Carol McGowan and Dan Kiley.
Don.
Don Kiley. I can't read tonight, I apologize. Z21, and I have my glasses. Z21 Committee, PDS, Mike Daly, Bill Schultz, Greg Sketch, Ron Shearer, Patrick Hackett, and Bob Flaherty. Section 2, the committee appointments herein approved and/or made shall be for the year 2024 for the purpose of advising council in the operation of its legislative duties. Official action on behalf of the city can only be taken by city council as a whole. Neither the respective committees nor individual committee members may act on behalf of the city without council approval.
Thank you. Any discussion on these?
Motion to approve.
Is there a second? Thank you.
Don Kylie,
Yes.
Janine Bell Smith,
Yes.
Bill Schultz,
Yes.
Carol McGowan,
Yes.
Brian Barclay,
Yes.
Mark Wickenberger.
Yes.
Next up, municipal order 2024-2.
Municipal Order 2024-2, appointment of non-elected city officers and members of city boards and authorities of the city of Crescent Springs, Kentucky. Be it ordered by the mayor and the legislative body of the city of Crescent Springs, Kentucky as follows. Section 1, appointment by the mayor of the following persons to serve as officers or members of boards and various authorities as required by statute or contractual obligation by the city of Crescent Springs, Kentucky, is hereinafter set forth as hereby approved. And the mayor, by his signature hereto, does hereby appoint said persons to the offices as indicated to the extent required by law. The council of the city of Crescent Springs, Kentucky does hereby approve the persons to serve in offices, boards, and authorities as hereinafter provided in this order. The Crescent Villa Fire Authority, Sue Cassidy is chair for 1 year ending 12/31/24. Brian Barclay, 1 year term ending 12/31/24. Patrick Hackett, 1 year term ending 12/31/24. PDS Planning Council, Don Kiley as the delegate for 1 year ending 12/31/24, and Janine Bell Smith as the alternate for 1 year ending 12/31/24. NKMGL, Mike Daly, 1 year ending 12/31/24. The Board of Adjustments, Ron Shear for 4 years with the term ends 12/31/24. Vince Albanese for 4 years with the term ending 12/31/24. And Tony Hester for 4 years with the term ending 12/31/26. Kenton County P&Z Commission, Greg Sketch, 4 years with the term ending at this point at 12/31/24. Stormwater Representative Mike Daly for 1 year, term ending 12/31/24, and ABC Administrator April Robinson for 1 year with the term ending 12/31/24. Section 2, the appointments herein approved and/or made shall be for the year 2024, or for the term provided by statute or contract, and shall continue until the successor of each appointee is thereafter appointed and/or approved. Non-elected city officers shall continue unless removed as provided in KRS 83A-.080. Section 3, the foregoing officials or members shall have such duties, obligations, rights, and privileges as provided by ordinances and laws of the city of Crescent Springs, Kentucky, the Commonwealth of Kentucky, and the United States of America, and is provided by contracts requiring city participation.
I'm unfamiliar with a few of these. What's ABC Administrator?
That's the
Alcohol beverage control.
Okay.
issues licenses.
Okay. And what's NKMGO?
Mike,
Like,
Northern Kentucky Municipal Government.
thank you.
And we've never met,
Oh, okay.
so.
And this is probably the most embarrassing one. I'm not familiar with Sue Cassidy. Is she a Crescent Spring resident?
yes,
Yes.
she lives in Emerald Springs.
Okay.
She has been on the fire board for several years.
Yes.
Okay.
And she's an attorney.
And she doesn't
And
put up with any nonsense.
She's a lawyer. She's a very good lawyer
No outbursts.
and a good person.
Yes. Motion to approve.
Second. second it.
Roll call, please.
Don Kylie,
Yes.
Janine Bell Smith,
Yes.
Bill Schultz,
Yes.
Carol McGowan,
Yes.
Brian Barclay,
Yes.
Mark Wartenberger,
Yes.
Thank you very much. Mr. Baker, on to number 2024-3.
Thank you. Municipal Order 2024-3, a municipal order of the City of Crescent Springs, Kentucky, declaring certain personal property of the City of Crescent Springs as surplus and authorizing disposal of said property in accordance with state law. Whereas the city owns various pieces of aged, antiquated, and beyond repair playground equipment, and whereas said playground equipment was inspected by the Kentucky Recreation and Park Society, which issued a finding that the playground was beyond repair and needed to be disposed of, and further, because of its condition, could not be donated. And whereas playground equipment is in such a condition that the cost of repairs far exceed the value, and the playground equipment is unusable to the city at this time. And whereas the mayor and the city council have determined it is in the public interest to dispose of the playground equipment. And whereas the city now desires to declare the playground equipment as surplus property, and disposal of said property shall be made in accordance with KRS 82.083 et sec. Now therefore be it ordered by the mayor and the city council of the city of Crescent Springs, Kentucky, that the mayor and or his designee be and hereby is authorized to scrap the aforesaid described playground equipment. Disposal of the playground equipment may be made in a manner consistent with the public interest as set forth in KRS 82.083. The mayor and or his designee is authorized to execute any necessary documents to dispose of the playground equipment. In the event any funds are derived from the disposition of the playground equipment, said funds shall be paid into the general fund of the city as required by KRS 82.083, subsection 6.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Don Kylie,
Yes.
Janine Bell Smith,
Yes.
Bill Schultz,
Abstain.
Carol McGowan,
Yes.
Brian Barclay,
Yes.
Mark Wartenberger,
Yes.
Municipal Order 2024-4.
Municipal Order 2024-4, a municipal order of the City of Crescent Springs, Kentucky, wherein City Council authorizes the mayor to execute an agreement with Regular Blacktop, accepting the bid for street repairs for the city. Whereas Regular Blacktop submitted the best bid from a request for proposal, RFP, to effect street repairs in the City of Crescent Springs, Kentucky. And whereas the city engineer has reviewed the bids and has recommended that the city accept the bid of Regular Blacktop. And whereas the bid from Regular Blacktop is for the amount of $121,223.55. And whereas the city council has reviewed the report of the city engineer and believes that the bid of Regular Blacktop is the best bid, and the city should award the contract for the street repairs to Regular Blacktop. Now therefore be it ordered by the city council and the mayor of the city of Crescent Springs, Kentucky, that the mayor is hereby authorized to execute the agreement with Regular Blacktop regarding the repairs scheduled by the city for certain streets within the city limits of the city of Crescent Springs, Kentucky, for the sum of $121,223.55.
Is this where you had a question, Mr. Barclay?
Yeah, sure. So remind me, I was, sorry, I was caught off guard, I was at this 121, not the bottom one.
You were wondering if we should split it up
Yeah,
with
so,
our budget.
yeah, so just wondering what the rest of the group thinks of that. And then I can see the sense in doing both at once. I can see the sense in splitting it up because there's no budgetary impact at that point in time, to where we're not, adding to expenses. Mark, can you remind me, or April, or a combination of both, remind me what the dollar amount vote is versus what we have set aside and what we would be adding to the budget?
Isn't total 120?
121.
Yeah, didn't we budget around 80-ish?
Is it was it 80-ish?
Right, and we've used some of those funds, so we don't have the entire amount, but we do have restricted MRA funds in the bank totaling just shy of 74,000.
So 45,000.
Yeah, 45,000.
47,000
That's not budgeted.
ballpark, right?
Ballpark, yes.
Yeah, okay. So 45,000 is what we're voting on, really, if we're doing both streets.
And then factoring in the other
Well, that's
road.
that's not a planned
Right.
expenditure, right? Like, I
Right.
mean, I think we can set that one as kind of a force majeure, right? So, what's the, do we have a, Director Miller or Mike, do we have a timeline of how long this will be? And the reason that I'm going down that path is, it takes as long as it takes, but I don't want to disrupt the two thoughts that I have, three thoughts that I have for doing it are: one, doing it all at once is a little bit more economical. Two, I don't want to disrupt that traffic in that area twice in two different blocks of time. And three, if we go back to it in a year, we then have the highway project coming in and screwing everything up again too. So those are my three thoughts of why I would be for it, why I would be against it, and picking one out of the two would be the budgetary impacts. So I don't know, I mean, I don't know if there's a question to be answered in there, but that's, I mean, what's the timeline? Do we know? Do we have a
Or
ballpark?
when they can do the work.
From, say it starts April 1, when does it end? You know,
Correct.
2 months, 3 months, 6 months? Do you have that?
So you're asking
What's
how
the
long the
timeline?
project's gonna take?
Yeah, start to finish, time,
Project wise.
yeah,
So weather permitting, I would say 5 to 7 days if tops,
5 to 7 days
from start to finish. They
for
come
both
in,
roads.
They would mill everything, yep, and then they'd have another crew come in after that. They have a milling crew and then a blacktop crew.
And are they doing this during off-peak hours? Because I mean, Grandview right there by that speedway is gonna be a nightmare.
That would be up to the blacktop crew, but I would say no. They usually only do interstates and things like that at nighttime.
I mean, we're the customer, couldn't we put that stipulation in there?
I could ask.
I would think that would come with an additional expense, but
Yeah.
It's a possibility.
There will be cardboard also, right?
Yes.
Yes.
And I will say, when you split those up, if you do them together, you won't have a transfer fee, like moving the equipment, because they're right there together. But if you choose to separate them, and then, let's just say we choose later on down the road to do one of those roads and another road, then you're gonna get a fee from moving equipment from one point to the other point too.
So how much is that? Because I think there's another fee that goes with that too, of going back out to bid, right?
Yes.
'Cause then we have to post it and everything else, so.
I can't give you what that fee is for the company, I'm sorry.
I mean, I think it makes more sense to do the project together. I
Yeah.
don't think piecing it together is the way to go, but.
Yeah, I was just trying to see if we could make something work that wasn't hitting bottom lines. Okay. Motion to approve.
Seconded.
any other discussion? Roll call, please.
Bill likes.
Don Kylie,
Yes.
Jenny Bell Smith,
Yes.
Bill Schultz,
Yes.
Carol McGowan,
Yes.
Brian Barclay,
Yes.
Mark Wartenberger,
Yes.
Was Rickler part of the quote for the Rosewood project?
Yeah, their quote's right here for the emergency one.
Squire.
Bill?
Yeah, they came in on a date of 1/18/24 with for the French drain was 9,500, for the concrete replacement was 19,400, total bid of 28,900.
I have a copy of that.
Mr. Baker, 2024-5, please.
Mr. Mayor. Municipal Order 2024-5, a municipal order of the City of Crescent Springs, Kentucky, authorizing the hiring of full-time staff by the Crescent Villa Fire Authority. Whereas the cities of Crescent Springs and Villa Hills, together with the Crescent Springs Volunteer Fire Department entered into an interlocal cooperation agreement to establish and fund the Crescent Villa Fire Authority. And whereas the interlocal cooperation agreement requires the consent of the legislative bodies of both cities before the Crescent Villa Fire Authority can hire full-time staff. And whereas the current labor market and shortage of trained individuals has made it very difficult to hire and retain part-time staff, including trained firefighters/EMTs, but especially trained part-time firefighters/paramedics. And whereas the Crescent Villa Fire Authority Board has requested from the cities the consent to hire full-time staff in order to attract and retain trained staff. Now therefore be it ordered by the mayor and the city council of the city of Crescent Springs, Kentucky, that the Crescent Villa Fire Authority is hereby authorized to hire up to 8 full-time staff members. Additional full-time staff may be authorized in future years as part of the regular budget process.
I would like to amend this order specifically to remove that last sentence. Additional full-time staff may be authorized in future years as part of the regular budget process. My thought behind that is, in the same sense that this council is voting on these 8 hires, future councils should also vote on future hires. And I'm worried that that sentence could be construed to, I don't know, construed or misconstrued, but it could be the idea that this council is consenting to future hires as opposed to just voting on 8. I don't really know the process for amending and voting and all that, so I'll look to any of your direction.
Well, we haven't had a first or a second yet, but
So the question that I would have to that, Bill, is we approve the budget, isn't that then a pass-through of approving the hires or non-hires? Or hiring or not hiring thereof? I mean,
Yeah, I mean,
if Chief Wint goes, I need my budget to go up $125,000 because I need to bring somebody or 2 people or 3 people on, and we say, no, we're not approving that, doesn't that give the future councils the teeth to say, no, that's not what we're doing?
yeah, this is just one more layer.
I think what Mr. Baker is saying is that since we don't have a first or a second on the floor yet, we can't offer to amend what hasn't been presented, correct?
correct.
So this has to either pass or fail?
No, it just has to be first and second, then you can move to amend.
Oh, okay. And then how does that work? Then we vote on the amendment,
Yes?
and then we vote then on the potentially, or the prospective?
We could probably vote on the amend, well, yeah, you'd have to approve the amendment. If you're gonna approve that, then we vote on the municipal order as a whole. And
As amended, yeah, right?
yeah, well, we could do that, yeah. You could,
But we-
April has a good suggestion. Move to amend by deleting that sentence and have it read as a whole without that sentence, and actually have prepared one that says that, just in case.
Okay. I mean, I
Council
don't think
approves.
we need to read the whole thing again, do we?
No,
Okay. So wait a minute, okay, so if Bill makes a motion, his is going to be with the amended, with that last sentence removed. So, motion
Make a motion
to approve
to
as amended.
approve
As
the
amended.
order with the amendment of removing the last sentence, just all one
Okay.
thing.
I make a motion to approve approve municipal order 2024-5 amended to have the last sentence removed.
And now we're in the regular process.
Is there a second?
Second, I can second that, please.
Any other discussion?
If, the only question I have is if this doesn't pass as amended, do we then revert back to the original text and vote on that? If there's a motion to approve that text?
we can go back to that.
Okay, cool, I'm good to go.
Any other discussion? Roll call, please.
John Kylie,
Yes.
Janine Bell Smith,
Yes.
Bill Schultz,
Yes.
Carol McGowan,
No.
Brian Barclay,
No.
Mark Wurtenberger,
Yes.
Passes 4-2.
That's the one with the sentence deleted.
Municipal Order 2024-6. Mr. Baker, please.
Municipal Order 2024-6, a municipal order of the City of Crescent Springs, Kentucky, authorizing the mayor to sign a contract for a services agreement between the Crescent Springs Volunteer Fire Department, Inc., the Crescent Villa Fire Authority, the City of Villa Hills, and the City of Crescent Springs for the provision of fire and emergency medical services from January 1, 2024 through December 31st, 2049, subject to the conditions therein. Whereas the current contract among the Crescent Springs Volunteer Fire Department, Inc., the Crescent Villa Fire Authority, and the cities of Villa Hills and Crescent Springs is set to expire. And whereas it is in the best interest of the citizens of Crescent Springs, Kentucky, to authorize a new contract for fire and emergency medical services with the Crescent Springs Volunteer Fire Department, Inc., the Crescent Villa Fire Authority, and the City of Villa Hills, so that fire and emergency medical service continue to be provided to the community. And now therefore be it ordered by the mayor and the city council of the City of Crescent Springs, Kentucky, that the mayor is hereby authorized to sign a contract for services to provide for fire and emergency medical services beginning January 1, 2024 through December 31st, 2049, subject to the conditions stated therein.
Hey, Chief, can you remind me how long the last contract was?
It was 20 years ago.
So previously 20 years, and now we're down to 5 to, or I'm sorry, 25.
25.
25, sorry. It was 25 last time too? Okay.
Any other questions or discussions?
Make a motion to approve.
Is this the contract that we're voting on? Because I went and I've read it thoroughly.
Yeah, it says contract for services.
Notes on it. What about this, we're receiving the contract where it hit intersections? 1, 2, 3, 4.
I'm sorry?
This contract that we were given, this is the contract we're voting on today?
I can't read that far, but it looks, your front page looks kind of like my front page, so
Well, it
yes.
says contract for services entered into the first day of January.
Yes.
24, but yeah. So are we not going over each individual issue for the contract, or are we just voting on the contract as a whole?
Voting on the contract as a whole.
Is that a good thing?
I think so. We have a motion on the floor to, do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second now. Okay, now we can discuss. Why would you not think it's a good thing? What questions do you have?
Well, I would hope that for be able to comprehend and understand with our residents exactly what this contract says and what others on our council would think about any given issue.
It's very similar to what we've done in the past. You know, it is open records. Anybody can get a copy of it. The entire council has had a copy of this. If there's questions for discussion, we certainly can discuss those now.
I sent an email several weeks ago, maybe I'll bring it back to the forefront and send it out tomorrow, but it talked about, obviously, the old contract and basically the new contract.
I have it
was-
here.
Yeah.
I have it, yeah, thank
And
you.
I had things in there that kind of listed what some of
That was
the
a
new
lot
things
to
were.
read. Yes. But I just wondered if anybody on council had any questions about any given, item on the contract that they might want to request to look a little further into and investigate.
I've gone to several of the fire meetings, and I agree with the contract wholeheartedly, based on what's discussed at the fire meetings between the authority, with Sue Cassidy there, who's extremely knowledgeable, with the finance people that are there that are very knowledgeable.
It's also.
I wholeheartedly agree with it.
That's also the, it's also the committee's recommendation to adopt the contract for whatever weight that carries.
I guess I do hear one about section 11, the wording regarding the two city mergers. I think that needs to be removed because it's a foregone conclusion that eventually we might become part of Villa Hills. Is that what this number 11 states?
I don't think it states that at all.
Anybody else's gives well, I would like to know what your thoughts are.
It leaves, merger for the two cities has been discussed for decades.
I know that.
And I think it, has a clause in there for if the two cities do merge, the new entity would take over this contract.
We got that.
Chief, is there other cities that have a fire authority that are just, like one
So there's
city?
only 3 fire authorities in the state.
That's right.
And really what this does, if there was a merger, it protects the fire department as an entity. The city, one city would have control over one fire department, much like the city of Fort Mitchell. The other fire authority is Bellevue Dayton. And that's similar to what we do now, it's 2 combined cities. I think all that the contract says is that if there was a merger, that the fire department continues to exist.
To have a merger would require, I'm going by memory, which is dangerous, but it would require an election and the consent of both cities to do that, which I haven't heard anything about in the years I've served as city attorney. So it is not, this contract does not bind Crescent Springs to merge with Villa Hills, and nor could it. It would require a separate legislative act and a separate, I think it would require an election off the top of my head.
It would have to go on the ballot, yes.
Absolutely have to go on the
Yes.
ballot. And frankly, I think you'd want to put it on the ballot even if it's not required.
And it's one of those things too that, to the point of the conversation, JB, you've been around it and, everybody else has been around it. It's a 25-year contract and that's the topic that, keeps coming up every 5, 7, 8 years with, rumblings or grumblings. So I think it's just future-proofing the contract to where there's a plan in place where I think it's, my opinion is that it's perfectly appropriate to be in there.
Any other questions? Roll call, please.
John Kylie,
No.
Janine Bell Smith.
Well, what are we voting on?
We are voting on municipal order 2024-6, which is approval from the mayor to sign the
Authorizing the mayor
contract.
to sign the contract.
No.
Bill Schultz,
Yes.
Carol McGowan,
Yes.
Brian Barclay,
Yes.
Mark Ortenberger.
Yes.
Passes 4-2. Any committee reports?
Can I ask about that? I don't know if this would be new business. It's a question or comment or statement. Is this appropriate time?
Sure.
Okay, so the Wood Hill project, Mr. Daly sent out PDF plans of it and plats, and 5 buildings, 4 units per building. But the thought is that the developer, the builder would retain control of all 20 of those units and rent them. And my question is that then basically becomes an apartment complex. So my question there is that the zoning of that is R1C, which is single-family homes. And unless it's deeded out 20 separate deeds with 20 separate addresses, I'm curious where the line between single-family homes and multifamily property begins and ends. And that my question there are they actually building, or is the plan to build something that property is actually zoned for? I'm not opposed necessarily about adding 20 doors to the city, but it's definitely single-family homes as zoned, not as multifamily.
R2C, I think. It's
Did I
R2C.
s-
You said R1.
But I think it's the same.
Yeah, it's the same. Yeah, I'm sorry.
It's up for interpretation, and I think it's something worthwhile looking into, and I can get back to this group on the information I find out,
Thank you.
if that suffices.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I'm lobbing things over the fence. I didn't expect you to have a packet prepared.
Can I
What
mention
was
one
the,
thing under new
total
business that has
Mike?
nothing to do with it?
20.
20?
20.
Yes, sir.
It's 5 buildings, 4 units each, side by side. So private entrance, driveway, garage, private entry, like that, like the hills are.
Yeah.
And, but those, in my, I mean, those are privately owned by the end owner, not Fisher, right?
Yeah.
So that is, you know, that's all single-family housing attached. So I'm wondering, I mean, how are they doing that? I mean, if it's, you know, if it's number 1 Woodhill through 20 and they're all separately deeded but owned by one entity, then, you know, somebody just built 20 houses. There's nothing we can do about that. But if they're, you know, if it's like unit A, B, C, and D and they're all owning, you know, together, then I wonder if that becomes multifamily than like a 4-plex.
Yeah.
So, and I, you know, I don't, you know, I just wanna make sure they're coloring in the lines.
It's a good inquiry. I'll get back with everybody.
Appreciate that, thank you.
Mr. Baker, you had a question?
I don't have a question, I'd just like to make a comment since it's new business. I tend to review Channel 9's webpage before I watch Channel 9 News. And I'd just like to give a shout out to 2 businesses in the city of Crescent Springs that were mentioned in an article that was on Channel 9 about the 9 best or 10 best soup places in greater Cincinnati. And they mentioned both Kramer's Market and the Block Deli.
Soup.
And as a patron of both, I will say that they both do have pretty good soups, so.
I thought you said suit, and then, that's why I was very confused for a second.
S-O-U-P, soup. That's all.
Thank you. I'll have to try those out. Any other new business or committee reports?
I have a question, something maybe I just didn't notice. I recently noticed a new Chipotle sign go up. Was that within code, does anybody know?
Where's that?
Closer to the expressway, it's more like over by the Hibachi Grill.
Is it on the building?
No,
Is it
on
the,
ground.
is it the,
Oh.
on the fence there, or is it something else?
Yeah, technicality there, huh?
We can have Mr. Daly look into it.
Yeah.
I didn't notice it, so I can't.
It's been there.
It's been there?
I think they're advertising, aren't they?
It's advertising Chipotle.
Yeah.
Speaking of signs to add to another new business, did we ever find out what's going on with the bridge and the Bubba renaming? Like, where's that at?
It's with the state legislature. They have
It
to.
hasn't moved?
No.
Okay, cool.
It's down on the floor now. So by March, hopefully, we'll have some guidance and
Right on.
direction.
Maybe we can talk about a KLC day.
Yes.
We, at our caucus meeting, we talked about the agenda, and Mike has put that on the agenda, that any of the people that come to speak will be able to speak at the end of our meetings.
Mm-hmm.
And I know Mike did send me this, and he says, for our council meetings, we have always listed citizens' comments at the end of the agenda. We will tweak the caucus meeting agenda and add citizens' comments, because obviously that had been missing, if I'm correct on that, Mike.
Mm-hmm.
And at the end of the agenda, and from the discussion we had on Monday's meeting, I do believe that the group was on the same page with the idea. With this said, there is really no reason to draft a resolution or an ordinance at that time, which I had basically posted out to give you my feelings on it. And so I will make sure that we have citizens' comments in the future for all. And it said, it'll be on the agenda, and if the mayor is fine with it, also to add special meeting agendas. So my question to you then, first question is, would you agree to special meetings where they also have the ability to speak?
I said that at the caucus, yes.
Yeah, that's what, just for
I
clarification.
just, I said that to the caucus and have not changed.
Okay, and then I would like to go repeat what I had read on Monday, or at our caucus meeting, I'm sorry, and this is a repetition, but it's called civic engagement and bringing people to the process. And I would like to see more people come to our council chambers and speak to us, and maybe if they have the opportunity to speak upon any topic that was relevant and actually fits into the city, anything about the city, I think it should not be up to just any one person to decide whether that topic is relevant or not. And I will continue if I may. It says free speech and public comment resolution for the city of the ordinance. Well, Mike said we really didn't need that. I'll go along with that, because I put it on the record. But I would like to also add that free speech is the most protection when it takes place in a public forum. Crescent Springs City Council is to guarantee that every open meeting, our caucus of our residents, the right to address their concerns in an open forum. Our residents have a right to freedom of speech to make their voices and their views be heard. I may not agree with you, which is a famous quote. We can't really find out who actually said that, but I may not agree with what you say, but I will defend your right to say it. And the reason for that, any and all comments I feel would be germane to the topic considering of our city residents. And freedom of speech is the matrix, the indispensable condition of nearly every other form of freedom. That is why it's first in the Constitution. You take away our freedom of speech and you basically will just go down the line and all the others will be eventually be removed. So my contention is this, and I will end with this, Congress shall make no law, this is out of the Constitution, abridging the freedom of speech or the press or the right of the people to peaceably assemble and to petition the government for a redress of grievances, and that is the First Amendment of the Constitution of the United States of America. Janine Bell Smith, Chair of the Crescent Springs Communication and Transparency Committee. And I know at one point you said, well, if the topic was, were basically germane to what we were talking about, I think any topic that a citizen or would bring up is germane. Anything they would have to say.
At a special meeting, it can only be on the topic of the special meeting. If it's not a special meeting like tonight, and the next thing we're gonna ask for is anybody that wants to speak,
Yeah, tonight
they can speak about whatever they want to, as long as they are respectful and polite in what they're speaking
I
about.
agree.
And
You have to be acting as a prudent person,
so,
and you're supposed, yeah.
I think we agree, Ms. Smith.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure that that was for the record, that we will speak.
The council agenda does say though, the citizen comments need to be on the agenda for this meeting, which is.
It also says other topics may be considered by contacting me, so we do leave it open. And, yeah.
So, I remember you mentioned that, Bill. So if we want to speak, if a resident wants to speak on a topic, they have to meet with April on Thursday?
We would ask that they let us know what topic, but they don't have to. It's up to me to allow them or not, and until someone goes off the rails, I'm gonna allow them.
Yeah, I've seen, like, we had one individual that was removed here by the chief of police. We know who that individual is, and there were several others that have been told to sit down. They've been told to sit down, for whatever reason, I do not know.
Congratulations, Brian.
I love being reminded about that.
Well, I think it's great for you,
That's how I
for
launched
you
my
to
career.
know that, to behave yourself.
We'll move on. Thank you, Ms. Smith. Are there any citizen comments? Mr. Smith, come.
Go off the rails, but,
Mr. Smith, please come to the front, identify yourself.
Well, just real quick, Jeff Smith with City Crescent Springs, I live on Harrison. I just wanted to commend the Public Works, the police, and the fire department for their work they did during that brutal cold week we had. First class work.
Great. Thank you very much.
I'd like to concur that the counselor there is 100% correct with Channel 9 as well. Kramer's has the most best soup in town. Definitely.
I'm not gonna compare the two, I'm just saying they were both.
I don't remember who's the other one.
It was the deli,
The block down.
block deli down by, where, Outback used to be, down that area.
It's in that strip center.
Yeah.
They used to be in the corner by Cork and Barrel.
Yeah.
Right.
Or Cork and Bond, whatever it was.
Any other business? Hearing none, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Give it to Bill, or Don.
Any opposed?
No.
So moved. Thank you all.
April.